Hello, good afternoon to my 3EG class. Okay, so sorry I can't be here today because I have oral exam duty, but it's okay. We will still do the learning and I will not let you miss out anything. All right, so you should have received this handout from the relief teacher. Okay, today we're going to finish up the last part of Geography of Everyday Life for topic 1 and 2. Okay, topic 3 on geographical methods. Okay, let me just show you the textbook. Okay, so if you look at your textbook, right, topic 1 and 2 we are finishing them up already. Topic 3 we're not going to cover it this time. Instead we're going to leave it for after the end of year exams or next year, because it doesn't make sense to teach it now. Okay, so we are looking at one last part of what makes a neighborhood sustainable. Okay, now we have learned from previous lessons all the different concepts, human nature, interaction, relationship, sense of place, and all that stuff, right? We have been looking at how do we ensure neighborhoods are sustainable. Okay, and we have looked at 3 aspects of sustainability, which is how do we ensure the social sustainability, the environmental sustainability, and the economic sustainability. Okay, so you can remember them easily as SEE, social, environmental, economic. Now, even though I can put in all the effort to make a very sustainable neighborhood, all right, but if a disaster comes and destroys everything, how can it last in the future? Okay, so when we want to talk about sustainability, about the neighborhood lasting into the future, it is not enough to just consider the 3 aspects: social, environmental, economic. We must also look at how can they manage, resist, and recover from all the disasters. Because if you are wiped out and you cannot recover, you are not lasting into the future anyway. Okay, so you have watched the 2 videos for your do now. One, both are tsunamis. Okay, one is tsunami that hit Japan, one is tsunami that hit Aceh, Indonesia. One was less, the one suffered less, the Japan one suffered less, and the Aceh one suffered a lot more, and it was almost wiped out. Okay, the city, the town couldn't almost last into the future. Okay, so why is it that some places they are able to manage this better and recover faster, and some places they can't? Okay, so this is what we are looking at when it comes to this part of the topic. How do we manage disasters for a sustainable neighborhood? Okay, now let's take a look at the key idea. Okay, disaster, nature or hazard, exposure, and vulnerability. Let me explain the terms to you. Okay, now a lot of us tends to conflate disaster and hazard, but they're actually 2 different things. Hazard is something, it can be a process, it can be a phenomenon. Phenomenon means event. It can be the activity that can cause loss of life, health impacts, damage to properties. Basically, it can cause danger. Okay, but disaster means that there is a great damage, huge loss of lives, okay, and a lot of injuries. All right, so the difference is that one is a lot of problems, a lot of negative effects, but this is more of the process, the event that can lead to some of this, not necessarily a lot. Okay, so hazard is the thing that can cause danger. Disaster is the event where a lot of damage and loss of lives have happened. Okay, so for example, volcano is the hazard. The volcano can erupt, that is the hazard. The eruption is the hazard, right? But if it erupts in the middle of nowhere, nobody's around, it doesn't cause a disaster. There's no damage, there's no loss of lives, there's no injuries. Okay, but in the case of hazards, right? Hazards just let me just rewind a bit. Okay, but if you were to erupt right in the middle of a city, okay, then it kills a lot of people, then it can become a disaster. Okay, so if disaster means that there's a lot of loss of life and damage and deaths, risk means that there's a chance of it happening. So if I combine, what does disaster risk mean? So disaster risk means that there's a chance. What is the chance of great damage, a lot of damage, okay, injuries and deaths happening? All right, you can remember them as DID: damage, injuries, and deaths. Okay, so another example of in school, okay, fire is a hazard, right? Fire can kill people, can cause people to get injured, can burn down things, can destroy properties. But if the fire is contained, it doesn't spread, it is not a disaster. But if it burns down a lot of buildings, then it's a disaster. Okay, so that's the difference between hazard and disaster. Now, why is it that some places face a greater disaster than other places? Well, it goes back to the idea that disaster risk is actually not just the disaster risk, right? Is not just because of the hazard. There's two other things as well. There is the exposure and the vulnerability. Okay, now let me explain. Exposure means what is being exposed to the hazard. So in the context of a city, we are looking at how many people and how many properties is in the area that can be reached by a hazard. Okay, so for example, Japan has a lot of cities that are facing the seas and oceans where tsunamis can come from. So they have a high exposure to tsunami because a lot of people are living in places, a lot of buildings are also in places at the coast where the tsunami can hit them. All right, but in Singapore, the seas around us, tsunamis don't usually cannot usually form over there. Okay, so we have low exposure to tsunamis because of that. Okay, so exposure is how many of buildings, people can be reached by the hazard. Now, vulnerability refers to how protected or how dangerous or how prepared people are. Okay, so if you are less prepared, there's higher vulnerability. If you are more prepared, then there's lower vulnerability. So as you can see for the case of Aceh and Rizu Kentakata, I can't pronounce this. Okay, this city in Japan that you saw your do now, why is it that both are also exposed to tsunami, both face tsunami? Why is it that there was a lower disaster risk for Japan than Aceh? It's simply because Japan was a lot more prepared. The vulnerability was lower. So despite nature of hazard and exposure is similar, because for Japan the vulnerability is lower, the disaster risk is also lower as a result. Okay, so if you want to reduce disaster, the chance of disaster happening, what do you need to reduce then? Pause the video and discuss with your partner. Okay, are you done? Now, if you want to manage disasters, well, it looks like the only things you can change is exposure and vulnerability. Because we cannot change the nature of volcanoes and all these hazards. Okay, we cannot change the nature of hazard. The only thing you can change is the number of people and properties exposed to it and how prepared and protected they are. Okay, so you can only reduce exposure and vulnerability. All right. Now, in vulnerability, right, we also can enhance it further by building up community resilience. Now, resilience comes from the idea of I'm able to overcome obstacles, I'm able to recover from obstacles. So when we say that we build up community resilience, we are trying to help the community, which is to improve the community's ability to adapt, to resist, and to recover from disasters as well. Okay? Now that we are done, so now you understand disaster risk management, how it involves these three aspects. Let's zoom into community resilience. Now for community resilience, how are they different and why are they different? Can I get you and your partners to read through these links? The link is also in your Google Classroom. Okay, and fill up this before you continue with this video. Okay, so take about 5 minutes and then pause for 5 minutes, discuss, and we come back to this in a while. Okay, are you done? Now, I will not talk about how the people behave differently, but which community is more united? I think most of you will choose Japan. Now, why is that the case? Because Japan actually has a lot more the society values. Okay, social community unity. Okay, they value community over individual needs and wants. So this is why you see that they don't behave in a selfish manner. They behave in a way that benefits the community as much as possible. Okay, now based on what you've seen, who is better able to organize themselves? Well, basically Japan, right? Because they have more resources, and of course you will see that they are more united to help each other recover. Okay, organize each other to recover, to adapt and recover. Okay, so as you can see, community resilience are helping community to recover. A lot of people think about, I must prepare resources for them. Okay, I must ensure the ability to, to organize and recover themselves. A lot of people think of them as training and preparing resources. All right, but a lot of people forget that there's this important part. So what if they have all the resources and training? They must be united and they must see themselves as a community first. They must feel that, oh, this is my friends, this is my people I live with, I need to support them. Okay, if not, despite all the resources, they may actually fight among themselves and hoard, like what happened to Higher T, right? Instead of helping each other. Okay, so I have 2 pieces of homework for you, which you can do in class right now. Okay, one is this summary. All right, so now you have learned that reducing disaster risk management and community resilience are important to ensure that it's a sustainable neighborhood. I want you to try linking it to how does this individual, so these 4 measures, reduce exposure, reduce vulnerability, reduce strengthening relationships, and developing residents' ability to organize and equip themselves and to plan as well. Okay, so from here, how do we get to each aspect of sustainability? How do these help the neighborhood become more sustainable? Okay, so these are the possible in-between steps, and how does it then lead to any of this? So you must think through logically, draw arrows to show. So I give you an example. For example, I think by reducing exposure, it will probably, I'm just anyhow putting out, it may not be the right answer. By reducing exposure, it can help the community maybe meet the needs after the disaster. Okay, so I draw an arrow to here. All right. Then I also think that from here, therefore, it leads to economic sustainability. So I will draw the arrow from the box below all the way to over here. Okay, so that's how you do it lah. Just draw arrows. Now, sometimes it can be a case where one box can lead to multiple ones. Multiple boxes can lead to the same boxes. One box can also branch out to here, can also branch out to other boxes as well. So do what is logical. If you are not confident, use pencil first. Okay, now the last part of your work that I want you to do, because you have quite a bit of free time, right? Okay, is I've got quite a bit of time in class. Okay, so this one will probably take out 15 minutes to 20 minutes, and this is part of your homework. I want you to use your textbook and look at, now you understand the concept of disaster risk management and community resilience. Let's see how do we apply it into a Singapore neighborhood context. So I want you to refer to your textbook. What are the common things done in Singapore? What are the common hazards? And what are the common ways we manage disaster risk? What are the things we have done to reduce exposure, reduce vulnerability, to strengthen relationship, to develop their ability to organize? Okay? The last question I will go through in class next lesson, but if you are done beforehand, feel free to get started on this. Okay? Once you are done, please show it to your, once you are done, please take photo and send it to me after school. I would like to take a look at your thinking thus far. Okay? I will see you next lesson.